So, have you ever wanted to dive into the book of Colossians, but maybe felt a little intimidated or just weren't sure where to start? Well, you're in exactly the right place. We're about to take a quick tour through this incredible letter and hopefully make it all feel a lot more approachable.
Okay, let's just jump right in. If you remember only one single thing from this entire explainer, let it be this. The whole point of Colossians is that Jesus is supreme over absolutely everything, and he is completely sufficient for our salvation. That's the big idea, and you're going to see it woven into everything Paul says.
And here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with that big idea. Then we'll set the scene, kind of go back in time to understand the context. We'll look at the specific problem happening in the church at Colossae. And then, my favorite part, we'll explore Paul's magnificent Christ-centered answer. And finally, we'll see how all that big, amazing doctrine connects directly to our daily lives. All right, so first things first. What is this one big idea that the entire letter is built on? Here it is, the heart of the whole book, the supremacy and sufficiency of Christ. Paul is making it crystal clear that our faith doesn't need any add-ons, no extras, no Jesus plus something else. Jesus isn't just an important piece of the puzzle. He is the whole picture. He's the complete package, and nothing else needs to be added, period. Okay, now let's set the scene a bit. Because to really feel the weight of what Paul is saying, you got to understand the world this letter was born into. With a book like this, context really is everything. So who's writing this? None other than the Apostle Paul. But here's a really interesting little fact. Paul had actually never been to Colossae. The church there was started by a guy named Epaphras, who was probably one of Paul's disciples. So just imagine, Paul is writing with this much passion to a group of believers he's never even met face to face. And get this. He wrote this powerful letter around the year 62 AD while he was in prison in Rome. That's why Colossians is known as one of his famous prison epistles, right alongside other letters you might have heard of, like Ephesians, Philippians, and Philemon.
So you might be thinking, okay, a church has been planted, things are happening. Why did Paul feel the need to write such a strong, urgent letter? What exactly was going so wrong in Colossae?
Well, the situation was really serious. In fact, Epaphras, the founder of the church, traveled all the way from Colossae to Rome just to tell Paul how concerned he was about a dangerous teaching that was starting to creep into the church.
See, this dangerous philosophy, what some scholars call the Colossian heresy, was this weird mashup of ideas. It was part Jewish legalism, super strict rules about what you could eat and which days were holy, and part local pagan beliefs, which involved things like worshiping angels. But the bottom line of all of it was this toxic message. Hey, Jesus is great, but he's not quite enough. You need Jesus plus our secret knowledge, plus our special rules, plus our spiritual experiences. So Paul's weapon of choice to fight this is an epistle, which is basically a formal letter. But don't think of it like a quick email. This thing is a masterclass in persuasive, passionate writing, designed to completely dismantle those false ideas and rebuild the church on the solid foundation of the true gospel. And Paul's answer to all this confusing philosophy wasn't some new, complicated set of rules. It was actually incredibly simple. He just pointed them back to the absolute magnificence of Jesus Christ. He doesn't just correct the error, he elevates their vision of Jesus so high that the error just looks ridiculous in comparison. Paul starts with this absolutely breathtaking statement. He says, Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. Now, that's so powerful. Image means he's the perfect representation. You want to know what God is like? Look at Jesus. And firstborn here doesn't mean he was the first thing created. No, it's a title of rank and authority. It means he's the heir, the ruler over all of creation.
Then, as if that wasn't enough, Paul just completely blows away any idea that Jesus is some kind of created being. He says, "For by him all things were created. All things have been created through him and for him." I mean, this is huge. Jesus isn't part of creation. He's the one who did the creating. Everything you can see, everything you can't see, all those spiritual powers the false teachers were obsessed with, he made it all, and it all exists for him. And right here, this is Paul's knockout punch to the whole heresy. He declares, "For in him the whole fullness of deity dwells bodily." Just let that sink in for a second. Everything that makes God God lives fully, not just a little piece of it, but the whole fullness in the physical person of Jesus. So you don't need to go searching for spiritual fulfillment anywhere else. It's all in Christ. So, what does all this amazing stuff about Jesus actually mean for you and me on a random Tuesday morning? Well, for Paul, theology was never just about head knowledge. It absolutely had to change the way you lived your life.
Paul says because you are united with this supreme and all-sufficient Christ, you should put off your old way of life, kind of like taking off dirty clothes, and instead you put on this new set of clothes, these virtues that actually reflect who you are now in Him. It's simple. Our behavior should start to match our new reality.
So, if you're feeling ready to jump in and read the book for yourself, and I really hope you are, here's a super simple roadmap to help you find your way around. It makes the whole letter much easier to grasp. The structure is beautifully simple, really easy to remember. The first half, chapters 1 and 2, is all about doctrine. That's the what we believe about who Jesus is and what He's done. Paul lays down that incredible theological foundation first. Then, the second half, chapters 3 and 4, is all about duty. That's the so what, how we're supposed to live because of that incredible truth. It's a powerful reminder that what you truly believe will always, always determine how you behave. And the core message that Paul delivered 2,000 years ago is just as relevant for us right now. The temptation to add something extra to the finished work of Jesus, whether it's our own good deeds, some special spiritual experience, or a set of man-made rules, that temptation is always there. And it leaves us with a really important question to think about. If Christ is all you need, what extras are you tempted to add to your faith today?